Yo, what I was saying, team. Right, going to be honest with you. I've been a bit hesitant to put this training out to use. And the reason that I'm a bit or was a bit hesitant is this slideshow that I'm about to present to you was a training that I put out for you. It's on the YouTube channel, maybe about a year ago, right? Um, but and the reason, sorry, that I felt a bit hesitant is I'm actually way to deconstruct this and improve this actual presentation. I've not changed anything about it. What we're going to do is we're going to go through slide by slide, and what I'm actually going to do is say where I think I have done wrong in the context of I'm just more developed as a coach now. The education that I've got as a coach now is way better. And looking back at this presentation, I'm like, although it is a good presentation, and I still think there's nothing wrong about the information that I put out about a year ago in this presentation. I just think now we're doing things a lot better. We're doing things way better, in fact, when it comes to Hyrox specific work. All right. So it's not to say that, for those of you who've been with me and I've coached through Hyrox for, over a year. That's not to say I've not done a good service. I definitely have. The results prove that. But there's just better ways of doing it now. Hyrox training, Hyrox, is probably the fastest growing thing in the fitness industry ever. Ever, right? And with that rapid growth, what we're actually seeing is a lot of information that's getting thrown out there on social media. Some of it is fucking quality. Some of it isn't so much good quality, right? We'll leave it at that. And just through trial and error, through reading, through listening to different modalities and methodologies, listening to more experienced coaches, speaking to better strength and conditioning coaches, me going through my level 4 strength and conditioning course, all these different things. Since I've put the last training out to now, I've studied, I've studied, I've studied, I've studied. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go through this presentation. I'm going to say where I would actually make changes in it. All right. We're still going to speak about the important shit. So basically what we're going to cover in this presentation is obviously the 12-month training cycle, how I think we should all be preparing for a Hyrox. Hyrox isn't, you don't train specifically for Hyrox 12 weeks before it. You start training as soon as you've come off your final race of the season, you start training for the next season. All right. That's the way it just needs to be. In the training as well, we'll go over each phase of training and then what a training week could look like. We might touch on that. We might. If I can remember correctly, I put this slide in here, breaking news, because I highlighted compromise running is nonsense. It is complete nonsense. And I still stand by that. I still stand by it. Those individuals who have a high frequency and high volume of compromise running aren't getting the best out of their running. Point blank. When it comes down to being a better Hyrox athlete, we need to be fitter and faster, and we need to be stronger. The way that you get stronger and fitter and faster is by sending a clear cellular signal to your body to be like, right, is this a strength adaptation we need? Is it a hypertrophy adaptation we need? Is it a anaerobic and aerobic adaptation we need? What does your body need to adapt to? What stress are you causing it? All right. This is why CrossFitters are a prime example. CrossFitters don't make the best strength and endurance athletes. CrossFitters make the best CrossFit athletes. All right. The best strength and endurance athletes out there, if we look at, people like the Nick Bairds of the world or the Fergus Crawleys of the world, if you don't know who they are, YouTube them. They're phenomenal athletes. They're very, very strong. They're very, very fit, and they're very, very fast. All right. They can both, squat over 200 kilo. They can deadlift over 220 odd kilo. They can run sub 3 hour marathons. they're phenomenal athletes. And the reason that they're phenomenal athletes when it comes down to strength and endurance is because they separate the two. When they're wanting to improve strength, they just train their strength in a strength session. When they want to improve their aerobic or anaerobic fitness, their threshold, they just keep that session separate. So they don't do heavy back squats or heavy deadlifts into a 20-minute threshold run. They don't. They separate them. They can be on the same day. They can definitely be in the same day. They just can't be in the same session. We want your body to understand the stress and stimuli that's creating. And when you combine hard effort intervals with heavy back squats, your body's literally going, what the fuck is happening here? What are we trying to adapt to? This is just a whole lot of mess. That's what it is. So those individuals who have got high frequency of compromised running in there, they're definitely not getting the best out there running. I'll actually put Hunter McIntyre, the Hyrox GOAT. Nobody will actually beat him at his best. He done a lot of compromise running and Hyrox specific stuff for his world champ prep, and he finished 5th or 6th in the world. The slowest he's actually finished in his whole career, I believe. Right? For the first time ever, he went off his usual preparation of developing absolute strength and developing absolute fitness. He then combined it far too late, and then of course he dropped a bunch of weight, didn't get as strong as what he normally does, and it affected his performance. We need to make sure that we're understanding the stress and stimuli that we're trying to create. The only reason that compromised running will be beneficial to use is purely a mental thing. Purely, and that's not to say it's wrong. I'll be adding a little bits of like compromised running into my Birmingham prep just so that my running efficiency feels all right. Because I don't want that feeling to be new come race day. All right. I don't know, a lot of us like to have like a lot of Hyrox specific work in there. And again, it's not wrong. It is going to build that confidence to be like, right, okay, I know how my legs feel after a heavy sled push or a heavy sled pull or after the burpees because I've done it in training. There's an element of that, and we need to obviously train that so it's not a surprise on race day. But just the amount that we actually need to do is very, very little in the grand scheme of your entire training cycle when we're looking at for like a 12-month period. It's very, very little. Very little. All right. I would probably change this a little bit. Actually, a lot. I think the majority of your year should be developed on general physical preparedness. So general physical preparedness phase is just kind of looking at this, right? It's developing fitness, it's developing strength, it's developing power, it's to put on a little bit of muscle. It's that. You can really, really prioritize big strength phases and big strength blocks, building some muscle, improving body composition, building an aerobic base, if you will. Run marathons, run ultras, do triathlons, all those things, do half marathons. All those things are going to be very, very good for you in a general physical preparedness phase. But I generally think it's not just a 6-month phase. I really don't. I think you can push it to 7, 8, even maybe 9 months of the year. So that would be the one thing I would change is just the duration of a general physical preparedness phase. Again, the stronger you are and the fitter you are, the better you're going to be able to put that towards your Hyrox like specific kind of training camp, if you will. All right. Yeah, we've already kind of touched on this. That's what we look to do. When do we actually get specific? You're building as a cycle. Increase in endurance volume and intensity. Yeah, to some extent, yeah, you would. You probably wouldn't build up the volume because building up or increasing the volume and intensity is just going to leave you in the bin. So you would probably just keep the volume where it's at or decrease it just a little bit just to allow harder effort runs. So this is where you'll probably be bringing in, more threshold work and more interval work, potential a bit of speed work, things of that nature is what you'll be looking at doing. A drop in general strength and hypertrophy. Yeah, probably just a little bit. Just a little bit more of a 50-50 split. Yeah, I would agree with that. So past me was kind of right there. Um, Months 7 and 8, again, if we're really looking at um having a bigger kind of general physical preparedness phase, then things of this nature could still be classed as general physical preparedness, right? Um, so threshold testing as in intervals, track sessions, erg sessions are always going to be good. I still think this is the one thing I didn't put in there. I didn't really make clear in the previous presentation is is the ergs is your ski and row should be done at quite a lot of volume, you know, from the get go. It should be in your training plan for the get go. And obviously, those Hyrox athletes or those prepping for Hyrox will know the amount of volume that we're actually putting into the ergs. People might ask why they don't make up that much ground, or they don't take off that much time in the grand scheme of your Hyrox race, and that's true, but we're not doing it to improve your Hyrox time directly in terms of like your ski and roll times aren't going to be massively improved. That's going to make a massive difference to your end time on to your finishing time. But the reason that we do it is muscular endurance, it's power output, it's developing more power for longer periods of time. So it's more like that strength kind of endurance, if you will. That's what we're doing. You know, that's the purpose of the ergs. Um, so it's, and of course we're looking at it from like an off the feet capacity kind of standpoint as well, where if we're doing a lot of running, that's going to come at some sort of like fatiguing cost. Whereas off the feet capacity, like the ski and like the row, like your bike, you can ramp up the volume there, and it's not going to be as fatiguing as doing X distance on your feet for a run, for example. So there's that element to it as well. So 16 weeks. Now we get specific. I probably wouldn't do that. I know for a fact I wouldn't do that. A lot of people's training camps are starting 8 to 10 weeks now, out from Birmingham. I've actually not read this through. So first phase, so two. I don't even know if this makes sense. Running across all intensities, bring hypertrophy, and strength volume down to baseline, bring in Hyrox specific strength work. Yeah, so again, we would probably lower just a little bit of the kind of general physical, the general strength work that we're doing. I would still keep squats in there, I still keep deadlifts in there, or a hinge pattern in there. Unilateral work, so heavy lunges, reverse lunges, for example, trap bar deadlifts, heavy pull-ups, heavy bench pressing, and overhead pressing. We still keep that in, but what we would do for more muscular endurance stuff is more sled work, more erg work, higher volume walking lunges, for example. We'll bring in a little bit more of the wall balls and things of that nature. We're bringing in a little bit more specific work, or Hyrox component specific work, when it comes down to building more muscular endurance. One, again, just from a confidence standpoint, you're actually going to physiologically, you're going to get more benefit out of doing heavier than race weight dumbbell thrusters than you are from just throwing, or from just doing wobbles with race weight or slightly above race weight. You're going to get a lot more bang for your buck, and develop more muscular endurance in your shoulders and your leg by doing heavier dumbbell thrusters. But I can understand from a confidence standpoint and a familiarity kind of standpoint of, you want to do a lot of wall balls because the wall balls are actually in Hyrox rather than dumbbell thrusters. They're not in there. So I understand why, and that's why we do put wall balls in there. But just understand from a physiological standpoint, we're going to get a lot more bang for a buck within dumbbell thrusters than we are wall balls. But we would bring in a little bit more kind of Hyrox specific kind of work there, more drilling technique, becoming more familiar with the actual stations and things of that nature is why we would bring that in. But we would still keep the aim of this right the way through until the final couple of weeks where we start tapering you. The aim is to still keep strength very high. Heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, heavy trap bar deadlifts, heavy pull-ups, heavy overhead pressing, heavy bench pressing. It's all going to benefit you. The stronger athlete that you are, the better Hyrox athlete you are when you combine that with a good level of fitness and threshold capacity. You're going to be a better Hyrox athlete there. slight reduction in run volume. So as we come closer and closer to the actual race day itself and in the training camp, the big change from like a general physical preparedness phase to, a more specific kind of training camp phase is your run volume is going to decrease. It just needs to, because we've already built that aerobic base. So we want to make sure that we've got enough adaptive capacity, to put towards developing threshold, right? Because that's what Hyrox is. Hyrox isn't a max effort hour to 90 minutes, right? Race. Excuse me, it is a threshold test. Your heart rate is going to be, 160 to 170. Anything above that, like an actual true anything above, like, if you're going up to like 180 and stuff, you just can't sustain. You can't. You might sustain it for the back end of the race, or the last kind of quarter of the race. You're not going to sustain that through the entire race. It's a threshold race. So the better you're able to run hard at threshold ability or range, the better you're going to be able to race. So of course, run volume is going to come down so that we've got enough adaptive capacity to then push the intensity. You can't push volume and intensity. Another mistake Hunter made is he pushed volume and intensity and left himself absolutely cooked. You cannot be productive in your training pushing volume and intensity. It needs to be intercrossed. Needs to be intercrossed, right? So as volume comes down, the intensity then wraps up, and that's when you start doing more 30, 40, 45, 50-minute kind of threshold efforts and things of that nature. That's where you start running more hills and things of that nature. And then Hyrox strength volume increases. Yeah, you would probably start looking at above race weight wall balls and sleds and sled pulls uh, and lunges and things of that nature, farmers cars and things. Again, um, that is more just from a mental aspect of like, right, I've handled more farmer carry weight than what's actually on race weight. I've pushed a heavier sled. I've pushed 150% of race weight, so I know I can handle this race weight. So it's more the mental rather than the physiological kind of side of things. But that's the way we would kind of do it. And then your peak phase, two zone two sessions. Again, yeah, you would probably limit then 2 to 3 tough effort kind of sessions. I like 2 priority sessions, as you are well aware now. And 2 priority run sessions is what we're able to recover from. The rest of it is going to be more aerobic stuff. So I would probably change the zone two sessions, zone two to zone three, more bike sessions in there. Um, Perhaps like a longer run at the weekend, but then 2 priority run sessions. It really just depends on how much training volume we've actually got. And then, yeah, the 4 key stations remain the exact same. The stations that make up the most amount of time, in your actual race still stay the same. Your sled pull, your burpee broad jumps, your lunges, and your wobbles. Those 4 stations make up the biggest amount of ground. So the better we are at them, the better time obviously you're going to post. But again, putting those 4 stations in on a high frequent basis is more just from a confidence standpoint, a familiarity standpoint. Um, Doing a lot of broad jumps can be like doing too much can be fatiguing, can be a lot of can be really fatiguing. That'll take away from the important stuff, which is your run pace, which is your absolute strength stuff. So yeah, we would put that in, but again, what you need to think about is the stronger your legs are, the stronger your pull-ups are, the stronger your deadlifts are, the stronger your shoulders are, then the quicker your sled pull is going to be, the quicker your lunges are going to be, the quicker your wall balls are going to be. And then the fitter that you are, so the more aerobic base that you've got, the easier your burpee broad jumps will be, because your recovery capabilities will be way higher. So yeah, I still stand by that, but there's definitely little things that we'll tweak there. Yeah, I think these are just some extra slides. Yeah, again, but I'm just going over kind of old ground here, but yeah, and I think that's the way we program now, isn't it? This is just the way. Oh, no, wait a minute. Don't know what I was going to do there. But yeah, that is just there we go. Share there. That is now how we kind of look at things. And again, this is just through trial and error, speaking to people, trialing it myself, looking at the data, looking at what actually makes a good Hyrox athlete, looking at the actual athletes itself, because there's a lot of compromised running, a lot of Metcon stuff out there, a lot of like AMRAPs and Hyrox specific workouts and stuff like that. And again, I'm not saying that it's not good. There's just better ways of doing things. And I think because it's such a fast growing sport, we're getting a lot of information out there, and we are getting a lot of high end athletes who have always been high end athletes coming into Hyrox and have not really changed or studied the sport in terms of the modalities of how to get really fucking good at it. Because they've already got like a track and field background, for example, they're automatically going to be good at Hyrox without doing anything. I'm going to say correct here, by really focus on absolute strength and really focus on absolute like fitness and speed. There should be very, very, very little specific Hyrox work in your entire training plan. If we look at your, meaning that your entire training plan being a 12-month cycle, very, very small part of it is specific Hyrox stuff. Shouldn't be doing loads of metcons and things of that nature. The only reason that we'll put compromise run in there is more for a familiarity standpoint, a confidence standpoint, more of a mental standpoint. That's why we would put it in there. But from an actual physiological standpoint, the more you can separate and just improve your running on its own, and that you can improve your strength on its own, the better Hyrox athlete you'll be. It really is as plain and simple as that. But yeah, I hope this one's a good one. Yeah, I hope this one. Hope this one was insightful. Hope it was educational. I hope I got my kind of point across. Yeah, let me know what you think once you've watched it. Other than that, team, catch you in the next one.